according to GQ, these are definitively the best 20 albums of the 80s. So let's take a look. Starting off, I guess at the bottom, there's not a number, but I assume this is number 20. Appetite for Destruction. You know, I gotta say, I love this album. I feel like it's gotten a little bit of hate in the last few years just because maybe this era of music or this style of hair metal hasn't maybe aged the best. But honestly, half the songs on here are so iconic and so classic. There's great riffs, incredible solos all the way through. I do think it is one of the best albums of the 80s, even if it's a bit cheesy, even if Axl Rose sucks now. I get it, but you know what? I think it's great. All right, Swordfish Trombones. Probably would have gone Rain Dogs personally, but you know what? I can't be mad at them for putting Tom on here. Probably would not have assumed that one to be on here, but Tom Waits deserves a spot, I think. He's such a unique, literally a unique voice, like in his, you know, his actual literal voice, but also just such a unique artist. Absolutely deserves it. Unlike this album, though, oh, good Lord, I cannot stand this album. Musically speaking, I just don't think it's very good. I don't care for a lot of Paul Simon stuff, but it drives me insane that this album cannot ever be brought up without its political context, which I understand, and I'm not even necessarily mad about that. It just, people never talk about the music on here. They just talk about how incredible it was that Paul Simon went to South Africa at this particular point in time. And that's totally fine. That's great. I like that aspect of the story. It's just the music isn't very good. There's no reason for it to be on the list. Are we really saying that the best thing to come out of South Africa was a fucking Paul Simon album? It's bad, man. It's just not good. Honestly, I think Paul Simon in general is overrated, but this album, incredibly overrated. Doesn't deserve to be on the list. Certainly not higher than Tom Waits. What are we doing, GQ? All right, you know, a little bit redeemed. Gotta have De La Soul on here. It's a great album, super fun. If you've just been like avoiding 80s hip hop because it's the 80s and it's, you know, it's a little bit rudimentary, I get it. It's really changed the landscape of like what rap could be, especially amongst all the gangster rap that was coming out. This one deserves a spot for sure. Would not have guessed this one either. This is a super weird album if you haven't listened to it. It's mostly just her, Laurie Anderson, like talking a lot. It's very like monotone voice with some kind of weird inflections here and there, just telling weird stories about, you know, being on a plane or driving past the bank and like, I don't know, it's kind of a surreal album. It's a unique and interesting listen for sure. I'm glad it's on here. It's a good one. Paul's Boutique, absolutely. I got to be honest though, not a personal favorite of mine. I got nothing against it. And as they point out here, it's got a legacy of just being like one of the best examples of sampling ever. And I got to agree with that at least. I'm not going to take away from its legacy. It's just not one that I listen to a lot personally. So I probably wouldn't have it on my list, but can't really argue with it. It's fine. Glad we got Janet Jackson. This is a great album. Honestly, more of a Rhythm Nation guy myself personally, but Control's also great. Not surprised that this one's on here. It's not a personal favorite of mine. Again, I feel like half the songs on here are incredible and the other half are just like a little bit annoying. Though, to be fair, my favorite genre of the 80s is not really jangle pop, so maybe it's just an album that's not for me so much, but I can't be mad that it's on here. It just wouldn't really be on my list. It's okay though. Kraftwerk's Computer World, gotta give the flowers to this one. I mean, Kraftwerk in general, they deserve all the praise they get for being pioneers of the computer world. And yeah, well deserved. Not my personal favorite Kraftwerk album, but I think but my favorite ones are in the 70s, so I can't be mad that they put this one on here. Honestly, there could be like 5 different Sonic Youth albums on here. Growing up, to me, Sonic Youth was a 90s band, so finding out that most of my favorite stuff from them came out in the 80s was absolutely mind-blowing, because back then, what I knew of the 80s was like Def Leppard and Depeche Mode, so to hear that this came out in the 80s absolutely blew my mind. This is probably my favorite one, but honestly, Sister could have been on here, or even Evil. They're all great albums. Obviously, gotta have Straight Outta Compton. I think this one's actually a little bit overrated, but you can't really argue with its impact and its legacy and its influence. So it definitely deserves a spot on here. Not a personal favorite of mine. If I'm only doing 20 albums from the 80s, it's probably not going to have this one on here, but that's okay. I mean, it's deserved its place for sure. I can't argue with it. This is not one of my favorite Madonna albums, but I understand why it's on here. She had matured so much as a songwriter by this point. It's got some of her biggest hits as well. I'm more a fan of her debut, or honestly even Turn Blue. I just don't put this one on so much. Not that it's a bad album. I get why it's on here. It's fine. I just think she has better albums. Love me some Pet Shop Boys. I feel like they're really underrated too. Like within the synth pop, people bring up Depeche Mode and Duran Duran and like Tears for Fears all the time, and those are great bands, but Pet Shop Boys, I feel like don't get brought up enough within those conversations. And they actually had like 3 or 4 albums in a row around this time that were just so good. Well deserved. And, you know, we haven't even seen a Depeche Mode or a Tears for Fears album yet, so maybe they're the only ones on here. I'm not expecting Duran Duran to show up, so. Yes. This is, I don't even really have anything to say about this album. It's just so perfect. Everything about this album is incredible. This is probably my favorite album we've seen on the list so far. Everything about it is just so good. It's a 10 out of 10 album. This is just one of the most beautiful albums I've ever heard. It's so good. Honestly, same for this one. Everything I just said about the Cure album goes for this one. I think this is such a kind of an underrated album at this point too, because not only is this, I think, the best rap album of the 80s, it's aged so well. Like, it hasn't aged in like a cheesy way like a lot of 80s rap has. And yes, everything about it is still very much relevant today, but really just musically speaking, the flows and the production on here has aged pretty well considering it came out in 1988. So honestly, overall, incredible album. I've never really been a fan of this album. There's some good songs on here. I love Age of Consent. Ecstasy is a pretty good song. Ultraviolence is a pretty good song. But honestly, almost everything else I just find pretty tedious and boring to get through. So I've never really understood the praise that this album gets. I don't think it belongs in the top 20 of the 80s at the very least. Honestly, maybe not even like a top 100. I just don't really connect with this album. I don't know what it is. I just don't see what everybody else sees in it, I guess. This one, however, also 10 out of 10 album. This is one of my favorite things ever. If you've been avoiding Kate Bush just because Stranger Things ruined that one song, I can't blame you, but I would really, really recommend checking out the rest of this album. And honestly, almost all of her other albums. They're all pretty good, if not great. Pixies Doolittle, yes, this is also a 10 out of 10. Absolutely love this album. This is another one that I always thought of as a 90s album and then came to find out it was an 80s album. There's some catchy songs on here. There's some really heavy songs on here. It just covers all of the indie and alt-rock things that you want. Remain in Light, absolutely. If we're talking African-influenced albums that are actually good, this is the one. We get Paul Simon out here. Honestly, this album and Talking Heads in general, I think we're so far ahead of their time as being just this like quirky band that pulled influence from all kinds of different places. Overall, just such a fun, incredible, catchy, dancey album, surprisingly, for being like this post-punk album. I mean, they really changed the game with this one. And Purple Rain, obviously, what are you even gonna say? There could be like 5 Prince albums on here. I really have nothing to add that has not been said about Purple Rain, so I'm not gonna even talk about it. Obviously, it deserves a place on here. Was this the number one? Yeah, this is the number one. Makes sense. Really can't argue. If you put a Prince album in your number one spot, who's going to argue with you? Why? Who is saying Prince doesn't deserve a number one spot? That's ridiculous. Honestly, I'm shocked we didn't get Thriller anywhere on here. We got a Janet album, but not Thriller? Honestly, I can't even be mad. I kind of agree, but although we didn't even get a Sade album either, that's a little disappointing. And not one metal album, not even Metallica, not even just like a Master of Puppets, super basic, or an Iron Maiden or something. That's a little bit disappointing considering how popular metal was in the 80s. Overall, really not a bad list, if not incredibly predictable. Outside of like, I would not have guessed the Tom Waits or probably the Laurie Anderson. And I probably wouldn't have guessed the Paul Simon just because I hate that album. But otherwise, that's kind of the box you put yourself in when you're making a definitive best of list. It's going to mostly be well-received, best-selling classic albums. So there we go. The definitive best albums of the 80s. Let me know in the comments what albums you would have on your best of the 80s list. And subscribe so we can start sharing some music. Hope to hear from you soon.